Grace and peace to you. I want to do this Bob Dylan song on the ukulele, thinking about all those who have been affected by the winter storms, including those in Texas. 'Twas in another lifetime, one of toil and blood, when blackness was a virtue and the road full of mud. Came in from the wilderness, creature void of form. Come in, she said, I'll give you shelter from the storm. Not a word was spoke between us, there was a little risk involved. Everything up to that point had been left unresolved. She said, try imagining a place where it's always safe and warm. Come in, she said, I'll give you shelter from the storm. Suddenly I turned around and she was standing there with silver bracelets on her wrist and flowers in her hair. She walked up to me so gracefully, took my crown of thorns. Come in, she said, I'll give you shelter from the storm. Well, I heard newborn babies wailing like a mourning dove, and old men with broken teeth stranded without love. Do I understand your question, man? Is it hopeless and forlorn? Come in, she said, I'll give you shelter from the storm. Now I'm living in a foreign country, but I'm bound to cross the line. Beauty walks a razor's edge, someday I'll make it mine. If I could only turn back the clock to when God and her were born. I'll come in, she said, I'll give you shelter from the storm. Shelter from the storm. So I was remembering that song about 16 years ago when I attended an outdoor music festival in Asheville. And there was an older woman there who performed with her acoustic guitar. She did that very song, Shelter from the Storm. And afterwards, chuckling to herself, she said that no matter who you are, if you play Dylan, you end up singing a little like him. Now, I'm aware that the legendary singer-songwriter is not everyone's cup of tea. Some people find his voice a little hard to hear. Personally, I love Dylan's singing voice. In fact, I started playing guitar in part that I could sound like him. While people may find his voice hard to hear at first, most people I know, if they actually spend time with Dylan's wide-ranging work, they come to appreciate his art, if not become fans themselves. Now, perhaps you picked up some of the lyrics in Shelter from the Storm as allusions to Jesus Christ. There is the wilderness that we talk about during Lent, as well as the crown of thorns. And there's a little hilltop village where they gambled for his clothes. Of course, I don't know what Jesus sounded like, but I do know that many of the things that he said, it can be hard for us to hear. This is the season of Lent when we're reminded that Jesus journeys to the cross. And we remember what he said, that anyone who would become his disciple would take up their cross and follow. And that can be hard to hear. I invite you to reflect on those words, however. Take up your cross. Reflect on love and also sacrifice. How those two come together, kind of like strumming an instrument and singing at the same time. I wanted to play Shelter from the Storm because I've been praying a lot about those who've suffered from these recent winter storms, including the people in Texas. I want you to know that the Presbyterian Disaster Assistance is on the ground right there in Texas and other places affected by the storms. I've included a link to this video where you can make a donation that will go directly to support those who are suffering. There is terrible human misery. I'm reminded of a lyric from that song. Do I understand your question, man? Is it hopeless and forlorn? In the season of Lent, we stare at the face of misery. We journey to the cross. But we also take hope. I'm reminded that in addition to the stories of suffering that are coming out of Texas, there are other kinds of stories. There are businesses that are opening up, becoming makeshift shelters. There are people who are opening up their homes to family and neighbors, even strangers, becoming shelters from the storm. Take up your cross and follow me, said Jesus. As you reflect on those words, maybe you could sound a little bit like Jesus. Maybe repeating what he said to yourself, you might become a little like Jesus. Perhaps doing what he would do to help those in need. May it be so.